Because that, again,
Well,
that
agreed, but I
ties
mean, it's still. I agree that makes sense, but I guess the Nike can have a great online experience, and they you needed JD 10 years ago when everyone was shopping in stores because that's where people were shopping. But now with spend moving online, their value that they bring in their 400 stores is still of course of a huge value, and it will still be, but at the margin it's less valuable than it used to be, and therefore is that the things that they do, squeeze terms, whatever it is, exclusivity in product, to just mean that they focus, because if they sell directly to you as a consumer, they make a lot more money than if they sell to JD, right? So there must be a temptation. They've obviously got to play it quietly. They want to alienate the channel, but they don't want to, they want to, capture some of the economics. So I guess it's a fine balance, and just be interested to know how you think that plays out.
okay. What I think is, in a bubble, you're 100% right. But let's look at all the other things that are involved. So when I have a relationship with Foot Locker that does the amount of percent to total Nike business and the total volume of business that they represent, and
what is that
they become
percentage roughly?
Which number are you asking?
Like as in Foot Locker as a percentage of Nike's sales. I mean, is it, how material would it be? Like 10, 15, or much smaller?
In the U.S. market?
Yeah, yes. We could take U.S.
Oh, I think they've reported it to be closer to 70%, 70 to 75%.
70% of Nike's revenues in the U.S. go through Foot Locker.
No. I'm sorry. You asked me Foot Locker's percent to Nike business.
No, so yeah, the other way around.
I don't know the exact number.
Yeah, I guess the question is just to gauge how, obviously the distributors are strategically important, but just how important. But that's fine. So please carry on with what you are.
I know this. I know they're their number one retailer, and it's by far.
Yeah.
So Dick's is close, especially when you throw in the apparel component. But and you take out the hard goods. But when you look at just the footwear side of it, then Foot Locker is by and far number one. And the problem, and that's why they built this collaboration, because they realized that they both needed each other, that it was really important because they both owned something that the other needed.
Yeah.
They liked the physical spaces, and they liked when Foot Locker allowed them to market themselves in Foot Locker's physical space, and that's what happened when you start doing all these collaborations. Okay, so when you step out of the bubble, you say, okay, now I have another player that's coming in, and it's already one I deal with in Finish Line, which has really become the fourth player, okay, or an afterthought. And you have a new person coming in. Can I leverage that? I'm Nike. Can I leverage that partnership and no, I'm not going to give away the farm, but can I do some special things with them as they're a new entry into the U.S. market? Can I do some things with them and build a little bit of a relationship and get them to represent my brand the way that I want, and maybe in areas that Foot Locker is resistant on, and use that as leverage with my relationship with Foot Locker? Because it doesn't help me when Foot Locker is, I'm making this up, 60% of my total brick and mortar business. Doesn't do me. I'd rather it be 50% or 40%, and that way I have more of the upper hand, and that makes it tougher. And I think they're both, Foot Locker and Nike, both look for that, and they both push back. That's why Foot Locker did relationships with Puma and Adidas and built collaborations. They took the model they built with Nike, and then they presented it to the other vendors. And when Nike wouldn't do a store with them that they wanted to do, then they did it with someone else, which made Nike pay attention and do more stores with them in places they didn't want to do. So I think there's some give and take that will go into some of that. I don't know how that'll all play out, but I've sat in those. I understand how they work. And JD is an opportunity for Nike to kind of re-leverage the playing field a little bit when the market's a little soft.
Okay, so just how this would play out. So in the UK, Nike would basically just go back to JD and get them to sort of re-emphasize their range or something, and you sort of, it's a kind of give or take relationship basically, that you sort of go back
Absolutely.
to the table and say,
they might go to JD and say, hey, we're going to help you. We'll build a collaboration with you, and we'll put a big Nike section, and we'll even do some of the cost of the build out. And if you'll the whole running category has not popped. So that's really what's happened is people are a little bit all over the place, picking off certain silhouettes and certain things. But, in the U.S. market, I see as many bands as I see athletic shoes. You see it on college campuses, and you see it with even young adults. And so they're just out there fishing for different things, just looking for anything to get something different, because the athletic part of it, there's just not a category that's emerged.
Okay. And how profitable is
the answer to your question is I don't see. The only thing I see is, like I said, I'm starting in the U.S. market. I'm starting to see some basketball silhouettes that have popped. I have seen some of the fall line of products that are going to be coming in basketball and some of the other things, and I think there's some really good stuff coming, so there is potential. I haven't been able to get my hands on any of it to show some of the focus groups and get their feedback. Once I do, I really have a much better read. But I'm after all the years of watching product, I feel pretty good about potentially what could happen in the back half of the year.
Okay, and how profitable is Foot Locker in Europe? I don't know how they carve it out, but I mean, is it a 10+% margin business, or what's the range roughly in Europe?
It was easily. I can't give you an exact number, but it was more profitable than the U.S. business. I can tell you that.
Wow.
And they were definitely double digits, easy. Again, apparel was a good component of that when it's a quarter of your total sales, and it's a lot of it, a big chunk of it's private label, which has 70-80% margins in it. Then obviously that's going to be a big win for you and allow you to do lots of other things. And I'd say it is still, probably low double digits at the very tip of the highest single digit.
And the U.S. margins for Foot Locker? Do they carve those out?
They're again in their peak. They were the lower double digits, and they're probably hovering somewhere below that now. Okay, fine. So and Europe, you think is a good? I mean, because JD are obviously doubling they're growing very rapidly their store count in Europe. You think there's a good story in Europe in terms of rollout economics and sort of improving sales and profit densities? I think the answer is yes, and I think is that one of the things with Foot Locker that helped them was the branding. It had such presence in the U.S. market. Most people in Europe know Foot Locker, even if they didn't have one there. I remember when we opened stores in Poland, people were nuts because they were very aware of what Foot Locker was. They were very aware from the U.S. market, not necessarily the European market, but the U.S. market. JD starts having some presence in the U.S. market, and obviously they use their marketing and social media to get that. Every young kid in Europe will be able to see that. They'll tag into it, and that gives credibility, and I think it gives them validity to continue to expand across Europe. I think it works both hand in hand. That's the one advantage Foot Locker's had over everybody, and they won't necessarily own that anymore.
And how big is Foot Locker in the UK? I think I tried to see it. Is it 100 stores? Have I got that roughly right?
I think that's roughly right. The UK is a great market. It's a great market.
And why is that?
Fashion forward. Set trends. They're very. Average store volume is very high. This resonates with the consumer, especially the young consumer. It's a very eclectic market. I mean, there's a lot of range in there, and so it's a great place to if you resonate with the consumer, it's a great marketplace to be in.
And so you would expect to have better sales densities in the UK than you would in Europe, presumably.
I think when you include it into the European market, which is how Foot Locker does it,